You're dialed in to Byron Velvick's Fish Tales. Real talk, real tactics, and the stories that make it all worthwhile. Byron Velvick's Fish Tales is brought to you by Livingston Lures, Trika Fishing, Mercury Outboards, and Camus Boats. Without further ado, here's Byron.
You can't see him, but he's laughing at me right now. Welcome to Fish Tales, Byron Velvick. Oh, man, what a special treat. I have pinned down a guy who has zero time at home, who is on the go all the time. Obviously, from the title, everybody knows who's my guest already because it says it on there. But hey, Fish Tales, sponsored by Livingston Lures, Camus Boats, Trika Fishing, and my fellow Mercury Pro Staff team guy, Mark Zona. There he is. Mark Zona. What's up, bro?
Nothing, Byron. It's great to do this. What was funny was what's weird is how you have these weird vortex situations in life. When you texted me and asked to be a guest on here, number one, of course I was like yes, but I had just got done telling my neighbor's son, he's about 30 years old. I had just got done telling him a great, awesome Byron Velvick story from 21 years ago. And I said, dude, he just texted me, man.
Wow. Like literally,
Yes.
you just got done talking about me. You get a text
Literally.
saying, come join me. No way.
Yes. And he totally called bullshit. He's like, you don't know any bachelor. I'm like, no, I've broke bread with one of them. So.
Dude, did the story have anything to do with, I had Dave Mercer on the show and he pulled out the picture of you, me, him, Van Dam, and Aaron Martins all at the Win Encore in the iCast. He pulled out the picture. It's going to be on right here. I'm going to put it on right here early in the show. But I got the Mercer hooked me up with the Van Dam, Zona, Aaron Martins, me and you hanging out at the penthouse at the Encore Beach Club in Las Vegas because that's where iCast was that year. Was that the story you told?
Byron, no, I had forgot about that story. And boy, there's a few things from that story that I can go into.
No.
One of them being, I need to say this, just because obviously, look, I grew up on the south side of Chicago, but for the last 4 decades, you know where I live. I live in the middle of nowhere. Like
right.
there is a stoplight. So what was funny was Karen, the Scorpion, was at that party. I'll never forget this at the Win. Is I walked. You're getting people in. You're being a great host. You're getting people, shuffling them through the barrier and the line and coordinating everything. And I went to get a cocktail and I went in the bathroom. True story. This is a true story. At the urinal, it said no sex at the urinals. And I went, wait, I mean,
what are you missing? What?
Wait, what? Wait, oh, and dude, it had like, you know how there's a male and a female, and it had like a diagram.
No.
And I thought at first, well, hell, this is a joke. But there was like 8 of them throughout the bathroom. I'm like, hey, the only reason there's a sign there is that must go on here quite often.
And it had the circle with the line through it and the 2 little stick figures saying no copulation for the non-English speaking.
So then I went out, my naive self, I went out and I told Karen what I had just seen. And she's like, what does that mean? And I said, I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Oh my gosh. As if there's a problem.
I guess. Listen, I'm having lightning bolts. I'm thinking about things that happened that evening because that evening went, and I'm a 10 o'clocker. That evening went really late. Like it went all the way to my flight the next day.
Yep.
The story, Byron, the story I told my neighbor was when Bass Center and Loudmouth Bass started. You and I already knew each other. We knew each other from your regional tournaments, my regional. You kind of knew who was doing good throughout regions of the country, basically cherry pickers. That's what how we started in tournaments. We went to tournament. You went to tournaments. You thought you could dominate and blah blah blah. So Bass Center and Loudmouth Bass starts, and it was right in the heat of your bachelorism life that
Yep.
was going on, right?
Yep.
And I was just not newly married, but I was, I'm 5 years into this marriage. And I'll never forget this. You're like, hey, you want to go to the bar and get some sushi or a cocktail? I'm like, well, I don't do the sushi stuff, but I said, I'll get a cocktail with. So we're sitting there and we go in this bar, and listen, I want all of your viewers and listeners to close your eyes right now. Just close your eyes. So I'm sitting at the bar with who's, for me, it's just my buddy. Dude, I didn't look at you like your profile picture holding that rose. I looked at you as a dork.
Your
So-
fishing buddy. Yeah.
My fishing buddy, but all of a sudden, you could tell there's a groundswell of Charlotte, North Carolina, fairly, really, really good looking chicks start to get closer and closer and closer. Close your eyes, viewers. Closer and closer and closer to the bar. And here's the first thing that went through my head. Why were you not the bachelor when I was single? Sorry, that's a self-centered one right there. And the best thing was they're all talking to you, and I'll never forget this. There's a little brunette chick, and she looks at me and she goes, "Who are you?" And I said, "Oh, I was the cast off." I said, "I made it down to like number 4 on the Bachelor show," but I said, and she goes, and she literally, this was so degrading. She goes, "Really? That is a true story. That is a true
My
story."
gosh. I don't remember that, but it's funny because
Yeah.
to your point, I remember you and I, Zona, we would call each other and talk to each other. You were always leaving the boat dealership. You said you had you painted the picture for me. You said, I got the sweater tied around the neck. I'm headed to the country club. There's a Long Island iced tea waiting for me. I had just got done selling boats. Do you remember this? This is Zona. And I'm picturing you looking like Biff from back east with the ascot and the sweater. Maybe you
Yes.
had the top down, Ranger boat dealership. You're selling boats and you're headed to the country club to suck down a Long Island iced tea or two. And we had never met each other. Face to face, we had never seen each other. I did not know what you looked like. I would have never spotted you in a crowd, but we were best of friends on the phone, Z. And so I had this low-voiced Michigan dude. I kind of pictured the Marlboro man, I
was, is, was, and is.
I had it so pictured in my head that there's this PI Magnum looking guy, Magnum PI guy in his convertible with his sweater around his neck,
Hell
sucking
yeah.
down while I see. And man, when we met and we did Loudmouth Bass and Bass Center together, it was like that's when the friendship got so much stronger because we got television at the same time.
We shared a lot of the same sponsors and partners in the industry. And really what before, not even before Bass Center, but and Loudmouth Bass, dude, you and I were we were trying to find a way, some way, shape, or form to make a living clawing and scratching in the bass fishing industry. That pre ESPN day. I can even say that actually now in my, you're trying to figure out a way. Which way do you pivot to scratch out? Okay, I'm making a living at this. And at that time, I just slung fiberglass from November to April, and then I fished tournaments basically April to and this is it looks, professional fishing or television fishing or whatever it is, it looks a lot better than it really is on paper. But it got to a point, at least here in Michigan, it got to a point before the television thing where I looked at Karen and I was like, hey, we're making it. I'm finally,
Yes.
I'm doing good in tournaments. I'm doing good selling boats. I didn't want to jeopardize that with Bass Center and Loudmouth Bass stuff.
Wow.
Boy, yeah. But I guess thank God I did, because it was, she was the one that said, "Oh, you need to go try this." So there you go.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about this the other day. I was doing a Bass After Dark with Ken Duke, and the subject of Tony Christian came up, and I said Zona and I were doing Bass
Right.
Center Loudmouth Bass, and I remember you telling me how much money you lost. Like that story blew up when we had Bass Center. The Tony Christian story blew up about the cheating, for the viewers, what happened was famously he got busted big time cheating, and I'll never forget you in the studio going, "Dude, do you know how much money I lost to this guy because the cheating scandal came out, and you were directly competing with that guy." While he was doing all of his horrible cheating stuff.
So two things on that. So but before I completely stepped away from tournaments, the year I won Angler of the Year in the Ever Starts, their championship was on Old Hickory, which, no offense to Old Hickory is not good. On a good day, but that's from somebody coming from Michigan where fish jump. Okay, so anyway, he's in that tournament. And we start in the same creek. And Byron, I'm going to say, and I'll cliff note this. We start in the same creek. I'm going to say on Old Hickory, I'm going to say the name of the creek just because I'll never forget this story. It's called Drake's Creek. But anyway, it's the big one on the bottom of the end of the lake. It's got a bunch of boat docks. So I'm gonna fish every single boat dock in that creek at light speed. So I fish every single boat dock in that creek, and I see that dude fishing one dock. By the time I fish Drake's Creek, if that's still the name of it, I don't know. I'm telling you that I fish, Byron, 80 to 100 boat docks. I do the rotation. He is still fishing one boat dock. Okay.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I'm fishing way too fast. Way too fast.
Right.
He has a great day, blah, blah, blah. And then it blows up after, well, I think it was an Okeechobee tournament. It blows up and I don't know. I heard he got taken into a trailer and he gets in his truck and leaves and is to never be seen again. So anyway, fast forward. So he disappears. He's just gone. And that's back in the day where tournament organizations would not say, why, what, and I get that. Some tournament organizations still do that. So we're doing Bass Center and Loudmouth Bass. And he agrees to do an interview with Kumar on the stipulation that I will not be there.
Really?
Dude, 100%.
Wow.
100%.
Really? He'll talk to he'll talk to your co-host, Jay Kumar. He'll talk to your co-host for Loudmouth
would not
Bass,
talk to me.
Wow.
Would not talk to me. But and I'll tell you, and this is back when I had more Chicago in me. I'd have just that. Sorry, beat that. I would have knocked him out for the simple fact he took money from many people. And you look at it from this aspect, Byron. Dude, you're a grinder. You did that. You've done this for so long. Little opportunities that can turn into career makers.
Correct.
That dude hurt so many young anglers.
Stole it. He stole it. He stole that. He would steal people's opportunities. Every now and then you have a shot to be in second, third, fourth place with a shot to win. And that guy and then you're just a bridesmaid. And he stole that opportunity from so many guys
100%.
that legitimately had a chance to have a huge feather in their cap. And they didn't get to make that big part of their career. Could have made their whole career. And they lost to a cheater. And that's hard to fathom at the tournament level that we were at. But it's funny because that story came up, and we're talking about ESPN and Bass Center. I'm like, dude, that crazy story about you personally, I knew you were fishing those tournaments you were fishing, but I didn't realize that you were actually competing directly against that cheating guy and losing money yourself to him.
I didn't. I only fished again. I think I fished against them too, but they were big tournaments, big tournaments.
Right.
But a lot of my friends fished against him a lot. And the other thing on that, now that we're talking about this, having, and you know this, your viewers know this, man, is having done Bassmaster Live for as many years as I did with Tommy, And before that, okay, you could look at somebody, you could look at footage of somebody with a fishing rod in their hand and go, that dude's got it
Yep.
mechanically.
Yep. Yep.
Byron, it takes the, and your viewers know that. Dude, it takes you 10 seconds to go, that dude's got it. It also takes you 10 seconds of footage to look at somebody and go, that dude does not got it. He is not mechanically sound. He is awkward.
Yep.
He is
Yep.
uncoordinated. There was footage of him in multiple different tournaments where you're like, that dude is beating people, like big names.
Right.
I
Yeah.
guess the only connection I would make to that, and I don't want to talk about that dude. That
I
dude
don't
is not
either.
worth
We'll move
10.
on.
But hold on. Let me. It would be like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite competing against Tom Brady on the field trying to throw passes next to him, where you're like, no,
Right.
no, you don't belong
Yeah.
here. So anyway, there
Yeah.
you go. There's that whole.
Hey, why,
Yeah.
you know, why did you retire from bass? And it's so funny because a couple of people, if it wasn't for my daughter and being stuck at home, they're like, I saw a couple in the chats for some of the podcasts where they go, I got Byron Velvick to punch the Zona card now that he's retiring. And I'm like, man, you guys don't understand. I take my daughter to school every day. I pick her up every day. This studio is next door to her bedroom. You know, I'm retired. You know, I'm retired. You know, I'm full-time dadding it. What was the reason for you to say, I'm done with Bassmaster Live? And I really don't know the answer to it.
Zona show, Zona Inc., all of it.
Yep.
It
You
just,
had so much other stuff going on.
Byron, man, I can give you little, you know, tidbits here or there, but full circle is before the pandemic, Zona show was swelling with, you know, here's what's funny is a lot of people think that Zona show, you've been on it. By the way, thank you. We won an award that season for that show that we did together.
Did we really?
But we absolutely. I didn't send you the award. I kept it for myself. But anyway, it before the pandemic, and I'll make this quick. Before the pandemic, being gone, doing Bassmaster Live, doing Zona show. And then what started to happen as social media got bigger and bigger and bigger, your sponsors and partners all want more content. Okay.
Yes.
So you instantly go from being gone, okay, 200 out of 365. And I'm not bitching about this. It's a blessing. But it also, it was starting to get out of control was number one, with days gone and deliverables, things that I had to do for sponsors outside of Zona show. And Karen said, hey, you're burning at both ends. So then I talked, it was funny. I talked to Davey, because Davey was already filling in all the time. And I said, hey, do you like doing this? And it was a perfect transition for him. He was at the age transitioning out of tournaments. So he was covering half of the season.
Gotcha.
Which
Yep.
decreased. But then all of a sudden the jihad happens with MLF and Bass asks, hey, Zona, will you come back in full speed? And I felt obligated to Bass for giving me an opportunity. I also felt obligated to JM, to McInnes and Tommy. Hey, this is a pretty critical time in the sport to drop the clutch and do as good as we can as a product together. So then all of a sudden it amplifies back up to a full workload again. Now, granted, McInnes did everything he could. I was doing Bassmaster Live out of Jacob Zona's bedroom. I don't know, Byron. It's strange. Last year, my goal was to say that I hosted Bassmaster with Tommy for 20 years. And to retire with Tommy. The thing is, you know this about Tommy. Tommy's Dick Clark, and he's going to go another 39 years. I'm not on Tommy's timeline. So this is no joke. Tommy's never going to quit. Give me a break. So last year Karen and I were on a pontoon ride, and I was negotiating the next run with Bassmaster, and she goes, "Hey, you're done. You're done."
Whoa.
And I kind of
Really?
and she said, "You're done tomorrow." She said, you need to notify them." She said, "You're done tomorrow." Byron, you know me. I'm a hard ass, but I'm a puppy dog. I looked at her and I was like, "Okay." And here's the great part about it is I love that group. I love that organization with all of my heart for that platform, for that opportunity. I'm still very, 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 very involved with them. And here's what I do know: to walk to walk away, sort of. I mean, I sort of have walked away, but not really. Um, Being able to high five, because a lot of times, especially in television, you worked in television, when you walk away from certain things, everybody's,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
that. It was,
Exactly. Yeah.
um, it was positive. There was nothing but love. And here's what I've learned in 365 days. I was busier in 2025 than the past 22 years.
having
So
having
I'm not
pared
sure it
down.
was,
Yeah. You pared
I'm not
down.
sure it was
You
the,
actually, yeah, you came down. It didn't work out.
I thought it was a really good idea until it wasn't.
Oh my gosh. So I
It's all good. It's all
remember,
good.
I was talking I did this podcast with Mike McInnes, and I had no idea. We were just talking about you. He was sharing all the love he has for you and Tommy, and it was a great show that Mike and I did. And then he brought up the fact that he brought his daughter up there, and they also used the cone of injustice that we used to go catch those smallmouth visually. So when the conversation between Mike McInnes and I organically turned to Zona, it turned into that. It turned into that conversation with the cone of injustice.
So let me show. So this was her first day. So McInnes, listen, he's like he's like you. Whenever you come to my stretch of the world, he's like, "Hey, she wants to catch big ones," and I'm like, "Okay, what, dude? Give me a break." So that was her first day. All right, that's a fairly big one right there. All right,
Oh,
so there's day
wow.
number
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
And listen, Elena, his daughter, is fantastic. She's awesome, and she's a gamer. So she shows up, and you've been here, bro. It's the reason my back is blown out this morning. It's blowing 30 to 50. And I looked at her and I said, "Hey, not gonna be, we're gonna have to work." And she's like, all in. So she catches a great, obviously a great big one there. The next day, I said, "I'm gonna take you literally the lake that you and I taped on." And I said, "I'm gonna take you to another lake." And I said, "Bring it, bring it." So there's day number two.
Oh
Okay.
my gosh. Oh, McInnes's daughter's wrecking
So
them,
that's what,
boy.
well, you should have seen the invoice I sent Mike McInnes for that little fishing trip. It's funny because those are things that it's hard to put this into words, Byron, but I got to see how you were up here. I mean, dude, you were like a little kid. When I mean, we caught all 5 to 6.5 pounders all day long, and I got to show Aaron that, and to pass that, to my business partner's daughter, is that, I don't know. I get more of a charge doing that now than 25, 30 years ago, when I just want to go catch them all. So it's all good. It's
Hey,
all
is
good.
is it still possible to find that show? Because here's what was cool about that show is I had just had Camber. That was 14 years ago because your show was the
Hmm.
theme of your show with me
Wow.
was you said, "Bro, come on up here. We need to do a show because you are a bachelor no more. You have a daughter now. You have
Yes.
Camber's mom, and we have baby pictures of me at the hospital because it was so cool. That was 14 years ago. I definitely want to put the link to that show on this podcast
100%.
so people can
100%.
see it again. So you can still see it online, right? People can still find the show. And for the viewers, Zona tells me the cone of injustice is the big cone, it looks like a construction cone, sticking it in the water, and you and I couldn't decide who was having more fun, the guy catching the fish or the guy watching the bite. And that was 14 years ago, bro. That's what's amazing is that she was newborn when we did the show.
Wow. I remember that. And I said, we got to get this show knocked out because you're going to be a dad and you ain't going to be able to come take fishing shows for a while.
Exactly what happened, bro. Exactly.
Yes, it's exactly what happened. And what was funny was that cone, we had been doing that up here for about a decade. Like the cone now, what's funny is the cone now you see it a lot in college tournaments and stuff like that. And I'm like, hey, I'm to the cone what you are to swim baits with a hanging treble hook, right? That's true.
The
It's a very
OG,
true
the
statement.
OG. Yeah.
Listen,
You're
for
an
all
OG,
the
dude.
haters
You're the
of
OG.
the all the haters for all the haters of forward facing sonar, the cone was the true original facing sonar. It was. I remember. Hey man, I
Dude,
remember one fish on that. I remember one fish on that shoot. Because here's what's funny is now that I've chased smallmouth my entire life, and it's rare to find them paired up. Because a female smallmouth will stay on a bed for like an hour. They're not like a largemouth. They'll stay on a bed for an hour and they're gone. And I think a lot of
Wow.
their work actually happens at night. And I remember the rock, I remember the point, and I put it down, and there's a legitimate six something, whatever it was, paired with about a 4 something male. And I'll never forget that you caught that bat. I watched her eat it, and I said, she's got it. And that's so rare for that to happen. And anyway, at any rate, you and I destroyed that lake. That lake is, for the most part, it's fairly toast. How many bass boats did you and I see? One, two, one?
No, yeah. No, yeah, hardly anybody. It was your
That doesn't
private
happen.
little
That
pond, dude.
doesn't,
That was your private pond.
yeah, it doesn't happen
Yep.
anymore. No, we've
You know what I
destroyed it.
remember
It's
about
done.
it,
It's
Zona?
toast. So anyway.
What I remember was Corey. We had the camera guy, Corey. He got in the water and he wanted to have a GoPro shot. He wanted to have a GoPro shot of the camera underwater, laying on a rock on the opposite side of the bed. And the male bit him. He got bit. But as he was putting the camera down there, he was like,
Yes.
he was trying to put the camera behind the bed, and the male runs over and bites him while he's placing a camera for us to pitch and get
Big one.
shots of
Big
this
one.
GoPro. Big one bit him in the hand, and he's like, dude, I just got bit. And he jumps up out of the water. He's like, I was like, the memories I have from that, I have so many fond memories with you, but that was a special trip, and I do appreciate. I had no idea you won an award for it, bro. You won an award for that episode. That was news
Yes.
to me just now.
Well, and what's funny is that's kind of when GoPros like went from here to here. You could put them underwater, stuff like that. And I remember we stuck one actually in the plate of the cone. Back then, that was high tech. You know what I mean? That was like, wow, we're but the footage actually that we got was absolutely incredible for that. And it's when, and I'll never forget this, like cone sales went bonkers. Like my buddy owned, I'm not going to say owned, he owned a company that was the main distributor of that cone. And after that show aired, man, I never asked for royalties off that. I should have on that one right there. But
Dude.
Yeah, I will. Here's what I will do on Monday. I will get you that link. You'll have that link.
That'd be cool. Hey, I got to show you another fun memory. You were in the boat with me when this happened.
Oh my God.
You were.
Oh
you
my
were in the
God.
boat,
I
and to
remember that.
And to this day, people come up to you and they go, dude, tell us about when Zona was asking you about buttering the toast. Because you went there that morning with me, the last day of that tournament when I won Clear Lake. And people are like, dude, you had that plate out there, and Zona's tripping out because you're buttering the toast. And as soon as we stopped and before the sun hit the water, it was Armageddon, bro. And I'm just buttering the toast of that swim bait and firing it out there. This is 2010, 10 years to the day that I set the record, the BASS record in 2000. That was a magical tournament. I had you in the boat for that tournament, man. On the last day, you went for a ride with me, and we got to share that together. That memory I'll never forget, buddy. Yeah.
And you know what's okay? So that was a hold on, a Rago BV3D. Is
Prototype
that what was
Rago
that what it was
BV3D.
called?
Yep, yep. Had the treble hook hanging off the belly. Yep. It was a belly hook.
Yes.
It was a belly hook. And you're tripping
So
out
it
because
was
I'm
like
throwing it out there and I'm popping through the
it was like
grass. Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
It was here's what it really was. It was like the original of original mag drafts. And I'll never
Yep.
forget this. Let me hold on. I got to tell you something about this. Is I remember watching you, and what's interesting, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Look at
Keep
look at how old they are now.
keep
Now
that
they
up. And
turned all
here's what's
white and
funny was
stuff.
they're all dry rotted. I love it. I love it.
They're all right.
So
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
was funny was after watching that, and here's how things go full circle. I remember, and then you know what we would do. So after the tournament, I fly to Little Rock, and then you drop so much knowledge. You drop so much knowledge on it to me that we didn't even have time to do in the show. But I got it. I got to see it with, and you know this. Once you see it with your eyes, you got it. And I
Yes.
remember
Yes.
a
Yep.
buddy of mine down the road here. A buddy down the road goes, "Do you think they'll bite that stuff around here?" I'm like, "No, they'll never bite that stuff." Like, dude, it's all we do here now. It's all we totally do here now. So there was a massive. There was you have a massive. You don't know this. You have a massive fingerprint, and I mean this. Anybody that swim baits, look, I know you did the glide, I know you did the chop, and you know, walk it. When it comes to a Rago style, a Magdraft style, a Final Cow, whatever it is, you have such a fingerprint in the country from what you did, and I put a little bit to also when Kennedy won on Clear Lake. But for the most part, what you did there, Byron, you have a massive, massive credit and fingerprint for dudes that swim bait east of California. Trust me.
So I hope you can hear me on this one because I know there's a pause. So when I was doing that back in 2000, when I set that record with 83 pounds, everybody, even out west, I was throwing a saltwater lure. They're like, he's throwing this ocean lure because the word swim bait did not exist. And it was crazy, Zona. They're like, you know, even Murray and Aaron and Skeet, we were talking about this on Skeet's podcast. They're like, are you free swimming that thing? Because it was only used to agitate bass off the beds. But then I'm throwing this thing, and I was secretly throwing it since the 90s. In 2000, Bassmasters at Clear Lake. So my secret got out. My saltwater lure, my secret bait that was not even called a swim bait. It was something used for calico bass and white sea bass or the stocking trout in the Southern California lakes. But then Tim Tucker is doing these articles, you know, rest in peace, good old Tim Tucker. He's like, will it ever happen back east? And I kept saying, it's a national thing. These bass will eat it all the way across the country. So many people said it's a regional thing. It's a West Coast thing. It's where they put trout in there. Clear Lake had to hitch. And I'm like, no, man. I mean, it's going to work in Virginia. It's going to work in Michigan. You know, now you got guys in Maryland, Minnesota. I go to these shows and guys are throwing swim baits. The word swim bait came up. But back in the day, nobody believed east of California, Nevada, Arizona, any bass would eat anything over the size of a super spook or a man's 20 plus. You know, nobody could wrap their head around these bass on the East Coast, to your point, eating them. And I was over there saying, guys, you know, I've been winning tournaments and catching fish since the 90s on this thing. And it was before the glide baits and the hard baits. It was when it was soft plastic ocean lure swim baits like the giant sassy shad, you know, or the worm king, these primitive looking things. And isn't that crazy? Now it's obliterated through the whole country. Swim baits are everywhere.
I shot a show in Minnesota where I gave you a shout out. I shot a show about 40 days ago, and I was on the lakes that I fish in Minnesota, the largemouth lakes. It's almost like you feel like you're on a private lake because you see nobody. And I was on a big school of 3.5 to 5.5 pounders. When I say a big school, dude, I was on them, and they were deeper. They were like that 8 to 15 feet of water. And Strike King makes a final copy. It's called a final, but it's a bigger bait. I'd say it's a 6.5 inch, and I'll never forget it. I'm buttering the toast. I'm lathering it up, stuff like that. I catch one, and I gave you a shout out. I'm like, I owe Byron for that one. And my camera guy goes, what do you mean by that? Because I didn't want him showing me. Dude, when I threw it, it literally looked like icing from a Cinnabon flying off of the Swimbait, just flying off of it.
Bring the toast. Oh my
Credit
gosh.
to you.
So
Credit to you.
what's
Yes.
Dude, people still talk to me. So I go to the Bassmaster Classic. I go to ICAST. People are like, "Hey, I still remember watching you with a paper plate, and Zona is you're blowing Zona's mind, and you guys are laughing, and you're buttering that toast." And I'm like, "It's a scent trail." I go, "All I'm doing is I'm creating a scent trail, and I'm making the bait softer and more
Yes.
pliable, so I get better hook penetration." I go, "It's a double whammy. A fish tucks in behind it. They pick up that scent." But then when I go to set the hook, it's not that hard rubber feeling. It slicks off, just like the slime coat of a fish. Had a double thing on it. I was like, this is just something I've been doing for years with swim baits, just like I've been throwing swim baits. But thank you for the kudos as me being a pioneer, because truly that is one thing I feel like,
Yes.
I've forged that since the 90s.
100%.
I forged swim baits. Yeah, it's crazy. So what's next for you? What are you filming next? Where are you going? Because I know you had like a window of 3 days when you got to be home and I got to do this podcast. 3 days.
I literally this morning. I'm glad we took a time out. I'm sick of tying FG knots. That's all I really do in life, Byron, is tie FG knots with my readers and your readers right there. I've been doing that, which is terrible to say, but literally the next 2 or 3 days, there's a window up north on the big lake on Michigan and Huron where we've got light and variable winds. Generally, it's the reason why my back is blown out every 30 days. But I'll make a power run way out into the lake and fish for the ones. It's very hard. Like, to me, to this day, is Tape and Zona show. I've learned a lot through the years, but making massive runs in my show is a very common thing, because you get to fish that have never seen man ever.
Right.
Ever. I'm convinced of that.
Wow.
They'll come up and
Wow.
they'll look at your trolling motor, and that window is the next. Like, I looked at Karen. I've been gone for the last month, and I looked at Karen and I'm like, "Hey, I got to get the hell out of here. We got light and variable winds for 3 days. I got to go. I just got to go." So,
Are you filming? Are you going out for fun fishing? Or are you filming?
I will text you by Monday night. Hopefully, I'll text you the ones we're after, because you don't catch many. Like, you catch, I don't know, we might catch 6 or 8 in the entire day, but generally they'll be the same size as they were back in April. Giants.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Well, I got a
yeah.
question for you. We have a segment of the show. This is going to put you on the spot, and you're going to have time to think about this because I can edit it. But I have a segment on the show. It's a really cool little segment, and it kind of trips people up. I have an intro to it. It's called The One That Got Away, Zona. It doesn't need to be a fish. It can be a fish. It could be a sports contract. It could be anything you want it to be. But I have this little cool. You remember when Jim Bitter loses the fish in the Bassmaster Classic to Brian Kirchhoff? So I tease the segment with
Yes.
Jim Bitter losing this fish, and it's called The One That Got Away. And then I cut to your answer. So Mark Zona, whatever it might have been, what was the one thing in Mark Zona's life that got away?
The memory still haunts him. He lost by 2 ounces.
Do you want me to go? Let me ask you, do you want me to go real life, or do you want me to go fish?
Let's do both. Do real life first, and let's do fish. So let's do both of them, because I'm curious what really got away in your life. So real life, what got away from Mark Zona? I'm sure it's not going to be a relationship, because Karen will come in and hit you with a frying pan. So it's not going to be a girl in college. But real life, what got away, and fish, what got away? Is Karen going to come over and hit me over the head with a frying pan?
Okay. Well, probably. She will too, dude. You know that. So, all right. So the one that I would say that got away, and I don't regret this, Byron. I don't regret this. I don't regret this. But when Loudmouth Bass was going, and then I transitioned a little bit into Bassmaster with Tommy, and I was doing at the time I was doing World's Greatest Fishing Show, not Zona Show yet. There was an employee. This is no joke. There was an employee at ESPN that said, "Hey, do you have interest in working on ESPN College Game Day? That's on like it's on every Saturday." And I was like, nah. And College Game Day was new at the time. And I was like, nah, I'm going to keep bass fishing. To this day, several of the hosts from back in those times, they're like, dude, you turned down College Game Day to go bass fishing. Way to go. So
Wow.
there would be
Wow.
there would be one. But listen, I don't regret it.
That's
I mean, a little bit.
huge.
Byron, listen, you know this. You know this. I don't need to be at college tailgates at LSU. I don't need to be there. Not good. That's a bad. That is bad.
Not a good look
No.
for Zona.
No. Okay. No. All right. So as far as the fish goes, the fish situation happened this year. It happened this year on Lake Michigan, Sturgeon Bay. I had just shot a show. And and it was a solo show and had roughly, I don't know, 28 to 30 pounds per five, right? So we've got the bulk of the show shot. It's shot. And my cameraman said, "Hey, can I put a drone up?" So I said, yeah. And he puts the drone up, and I could hear the drone way in the distance. And I hook one, and it's a heavy 4, perfect for the drone, right? So it's fighting, and I'm kind of just letting it do what it's doing. And Byron, I'm only in like 3 to 6 feet of water. It's dead flat calm, total pre-spawn. And I look behind it, and and it was weird. It was probably at the time, it was 30 yards away. And I look behind it and I see, as God is my witness, the biggest smallmouth I have ever seen, that I'll ever see. And I said, "Get the drone over." So he gets the drone over, and the drone's behind me. And it is twice as big as the one that I'm fighting. Minimum. So I land it. I land it, the one that I catch, and it's, I don't know, it's a heavy 4, a light 5, but this fish is hanging with me. It's hanging with me. So I start machine gunning anything I can grab, and it's ignoring everything. And it's what's funny is, Byron, it eases off. 7 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot, and my whole body, and my body starts shaking. Like I'm shaking that. And I follow it, man. I follow it for like 40 yards, and it just eases off a break. And I'm not joking. Van Dam asked me, he goes, "How big was it?" I said, "Dude, if you told me it was 9 pounds, 10 pounds, I'd say okay. If you told me it was 11, I'd say okay."
Whoa.
Literally, I've never seen something that, like, it looked like a damn carp. But it was funny, I would guess it at 24 to 25 inches long, and I would guess it at that around.
Oh
And
my
I
gosh.
told my camera boat driver, so I had to leave town. It was late April. I told my camera boat driver, because he got to look at the drone footage, and he lives up there, and he's a hammer. He's a big time hammerhead. I said, "Hey, dude, I ain't saying, but I'm saying you should fish in that bay for the next month, because that could be $1 million bass, if not more. So
Whoa. Wow.
that's the one that got away.
You're
It's the
talking
one
like
that got away.
state record, world record class,
Yeah. Yeah.
the alpha
Yes.
smallmouth of all alpha smallmouth ever. Dude, could
Yes.
you imagine if Mark Zona caught the world record smallmouth?
I think, dude, I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this bullshitting. I think I looked at him. I mean
You,
that.
oh my gosh.
Hey man, like my body was shaking. Like I don't get like that. Like I get fired up when I catch a big one taping, but when I looked at it, it was the unicorn of all. And here's what's interesting is that area of the lake, I've caught a lot of now of 7 to 8 pound fish. Dude, it was another spectrum. It was another spectrum of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can relate that to Clear Lake. I actually was at Clear Lake one year practicing for, it might have been the tournament I won in 2000 or one of those big tournaments. And I was rolling up looking for beds. I'm rolling up to this line of toolies. And I thought it was a carp. I put the trolling motor down because I'm going to get back in behind those toolies looking, and suspended out in front of the toolies is a female, which I thought was a giant carp, a giant grass carp. And as I'm coming up to it, I see the bug eyes on it. I see the belly. I look down at it. She turns to the side, Mark, like orca, and she looks up at me with that big giant bulge eye and the size of it, the width and the girth. That I'm like that. I've seen an 18 before in San Diego. 18.6 was the biggest I've ever seen. And I'm like, that is a lot bigger than the 18.6 that I saw in San Diego. And she turns to her
Wow.
side. She turns to her side with that big eye. I get a full look at her because it's cold. It's early spring. She's up elevated. She's out in front of the toolies. She's just sunning her back. And I happen to drop in on her. And I'm going towards the bank. And I look at her and I saw her turn and swim away. Aaron says to me, he also saw one at Clear Lake that he thought was the world record. And it was two different places, but Aaron's like, dude, I saw one like that at Clear Lake as well, early spring, that you'll never forget it. Never had a chance to catch it. Started
Right.
there the first day of the tournament, shaking. Bassmaster tournament. It was 2000 because I drew Don Ivino's son, Gene Ivino, and I said to Don Ivino's son, I said, dude, we're starting where I saw what I think might be the world record largemouth. And we're going to start first thing in the morning and just fan cast an area in front of these toolies, because I'm not kidding you. I saw the biggest bass of my entire life, and an 18.6. This was bigger than any 18.6 that I saw in San Diego. And
Wow.
to that point, I just looked at her, but Aaron was the only other guy that he said, I saw one at Clear Lake that he also thought was a world record. You'll never forget that fish for the rest of your life, ever.
It's totally like that right there. What's funny is it's ingrained in your head. It is totally, you know, and here's the problem. I know how I am is smallmouth are like salmon, and they're creatures of habit. They come back to the same areas in the spring. They come back year after year after year. Like, dude, I will be in the back of that bay till I'm dead, hoping to get that thing to buy. It was a freak, man.
Oh my gosh, that's a crazy one that got away. I knew you'd have a couple of good ones that got away.
Yeah,
Funny enough, you turned down a job that the guy that was on The Bachelor before me, Jesse Palmer, of the New York Giants, took that
that's
job.
right.
So
That's
Jesse
right.
Palmer, and you and I were in the studio filming, and there's college in the studio right there. We're filming in Charlotte, North
Yeah,
Carolina. You and I are doing. I never got to go to the mothership. I never got to go to Bristol, Connecticut. We were the ESPN rejects. You remember we were all
yes,
the Jerry Goodman, everybody else, our producer. We were all everybody that was in Charlotte, North Carolina were the ESPN mothership rejects. And then
yeah.
and then you get the offer to do a job, and then I hear shortly after we're done with all that stuff, Jesse Palmer gets the role, takes the nod on your deal, and now he's hosting The Bachelor. So that dude is now the host of The Bachelor.
But they wanted me out jacking with the tailgate. They didn't want me on the set. They wanted me jacking with the tailgaters. And what was funny was they had me do. This is no joke. I did a with McInnes. I did a bowl game where Matt Stafford, now the Los Angeles Rams quarterback, Matt Stafford for the Bulldogs was a freshman, and I interviewed him. But their plan was for me on game day was to go out and hang with the tailgaters. Don't threaten me with a good time,
Your
Byron.
face is painted a big Z on your bare chest. I can see Zona, a beer can, the beer can with the two straws in it and the painted face. That would have been your future, Zona. You would have
I
been the king of tailgating.
I don't think I would have failed at that job in any way, shape, or form.
But your
There
marriage
you
would have
go.
taken a hit. Yeah, you would
Oh,
have
done.
failed. But you're Karen. You can forget about those beautiful kids, those beautiful boys to you, and your beautiful wife. It would be a whole different Zona. We might be.
Listen, it it's enough to tell people that you bass fish for a living or commentate bass fishing. It's another level to say my husband tailgates for a
Yeah,
living.
for a living. Oh, well, you did the right thing. Oh my gosh, dude. Well, I know you had an hour with me and I took it up. Well, there's a break in the middle. Dude, I could go for 2 more hours and maybe we can do it again. You said I might be able to be on your podcast pretty soon.
Not only that, we need to get you back on the no, no. You need yes, the podcast, yes. You need to come fish the back of that bay that I'm talking about where I seen that thing.
Oh,
There,
because we just did it on the show. Take me to
dude,
the what? Take me there.
it's I never saw a bass boat. It is it's something else. It's something else. Yeah.
Listen, there's two things. I'd love to go there. I'd love to have you come to Canyon Lake right here in San Antonio. I know you're filming all over the place, but if you ever want to come to Texas, do a show here. If there's an opportunity, buddy, my daughter's old enough now where she's taking much better care of herself. I don't need to be home 24/7 dadding it
Right.
all the time. So if there's a window where you want me to come up, bro, and even relive, go look for the world record smallmouth with you. I know if one of us hooks it, I'll be pushed out of the. I could. Only worst thing could happen is I'm like, I got her, Zona. You'd be like, that's it. You're out.
Yeah,
I would
maybe
love
I'm gonna
to.
take that. I might take that invite back actually, now that you said that.
Oh, well, that would be fun. No, we got to
Let's
go.
do it.
I would love to. I would love to be on your show again. And I'm going to put the link to the show we did together. Dude, I just wanted to catch up with you. And I got to spend an hour with you, buddy. And I can't thank you enough, man. I really can't. This has been great.
You're the best, Byron, and thanks for having me on. Reliving some of the memories I actually forgot, but let's go make some new ones. You're the best.
We'll make some more. Don't push stop. I'm going to hang it up right now. But that's the end of Fishtails, everybody. Mark Zona, we're checking out, and we are done.